So twofold. There was the tip of the iceberg and the rest of the iceberg. The first was a typical slap, a defamation case for publicly stating that the company paid $250 million worth in bribes over 5 years, that they tried to cover it up, and that they tried to conceal and mislead the public, the markets, about the extent of their corruption. They sought €600,000 against me, so the case was taken in Rotterdam in material and immaterial damages. They wanted a public apology to be published in a number of newspapers in the Netherlands and in the UK. Should I not do that, I'd have a €25,000 euro fine, and then for every day thereafter another 10,000. And if I ever dare defame again 25,000, and then another 10,000 until the breach stopped. I'm not quite sure how I unbreached it, but anyway. Ultimately, it had the desired effect in that the chilling effect was with me. How on earth am I going to defend this? How am I going to afford to defend this? Where do I turn? To a different country? And yeah, probably lost sleep for about 3 weeks, grew at least a year, and was frightened, absolutely petrified, which is precisely where they wanted me. Thank goodness I found a Dutch lawyer, Otto Volgenant of Books Law Chambers, Advocates, and he managed to represent me at a far reduced price. Before the writ was even served on me, so this was in June 2015, they managed to get a freezing order over my property and sought also to get a freezing order over my bank account. Imagine trying to pay a lawyer when you can't even have access to your bank account. Fortunately, they didn't get the latter, but they got the former. Ultimately, unfortunately for them, those 3 statements were all true. A defence was filed with 148 exhibits, and then this is a quirk of the Dutch legal system. They were able to apply for a nihil order, which meant that they reduced their claim against me to 0, and that automatically led to the case being dismissed by the judge. So I never even got my day in court. But as terrorising as it all was, little, unfortunately, did I know that was to be the tip of the iceberg. Way earlier, back in September 2014, where I worked, their headquarters, even though it was a Dutch-listed blue-chip company, was in Monaco. They filed a complaint in Monaco for attempted extortion, a frivolous and vexatious complaint. All the same, that's what they did. Monaco was very much in cohorts with SBM. SBM was their darling. They wanted more blue-chip companies setting up in Monaco. They would issue stamps celebrating their products. The prince would go on trade trips with them. He even opened their creche, and when in the midst of all these fines being reported, he proudly opened their new office facilities in the Principality. Ultimately, I wasn't told for 3 years till 2017 about those proceedings from the prosecutor's office. I refused to go anywhere near Monaco because of all the 6 prosecutors that had pursued SBM to get all those fines. Monaco was not part of it. They didn't pursue anyone, even though most of the bribes, this is what we're talking about, were formed and executed in the Principality. The matter went to trial after I had been charged in my absence. It was thrown away, dismissed on the basis of repeated breaches of Article 6 of the European Convention on Human Rights about timeliness and communicating in a language I didn't understand, or it should be, as obviously in English I could understand. So I really thought very little of it. In the meantime, I was able to continue with my career as a contractor. Everything was basically fine. Well, that's rude interruption with the defamation proceedings. Fast forward to 30th of July 2020, arrival on a family holiday, so this was just after first lockdown in Croatia, in Dubrovnik. I was arrested under an Interpol red notice for bribery and corruption, which I think was the nearest they could tick the box to this accusation of attempted extortion. So I was arrested now in front of my family. After I got out of jail, I ultimately was stuck in Croatia for 50 weeks. The case kept going from the county court to the Supreme Court, and the 6th time of asking, the Supreme Court decided I should be extradited. That decision had to then go to the Minister of Justice. He had to rubber stamp it, and he ultimately determined that I shouldn't be extradited, and I was set free. But the damage was now done. My 26-year marriage was now over. My career was in absolute shreds. Everything important to me had gone. Continuity, solidity, predictableness in your life had all gone. And the damage, ultimately, you could say SBM won. The punishment was getting that red notice, which should never have occurred. I hadn't even been charged. But they did what they did, and to a large degree, I would suggest that they won.